All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. Let's check it out. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got an incredible show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking with Simon, the CEO of Uphold. 1 second, but before we do, it's linked to private equity, baby. That's where you can get some of the best private equity in this space. If you believe in the tech, you want to have an opportunity to get the private equity to support it, and you can do it with Link2. And you know what? Uphold's on there. Ripple's on there. We got so many incredible products. Make sure you check it out and click the link. And speaking of Uphold, it's home of the altcoins. That's right. Uphold is a giant global multi-asset digital platform, ladies and gentlemen, and they have staking, anything to anything. If you're looking to trade, you could get your crypto and turn it into private equity or gold. You could do so many things, but check it out. You can stake all kinds of assets, including HBAR. But right now, let's get down to it. Let's talk to the one and only Simon McLoughlin, right?
That's right, Brad. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Simon. It is such a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak with you. We have so many great things to talk about today, and I believe, even though we're in the middle of a crypto winter, I think we have so many things to look forward coming out of this crypto winter, with so many applications going to be contributing to this bull market space. Let's start here, Simon. Uphold has been a leader in the crypto space, and they have done massive things, as I've mentioned in the plug. But I also want to ask the question, are you guys working on any M&As, merger acquisitions, or do you have plans to go public? What is your goal in the near term?
We certainly don't have plans to go public in the near term. And M&A stuff, I mean, personally, I'm very wary of that because it can become a distraction very easily. And I right now, being a private company, I'm working on building fundamental enterprise and customer value is our focus. The platform's taken huge strides forward over the last year. We've gone from supporting 70 digital assets to 260. We now offer 45 digital assets in the United States that you can't find on other centralized platforms. We believe we offer the best staking program in the US now, 31 assets, in and out staking, good APYs. And behind the scenes, people tend to forget the thing that makes Uphold unique is it's not an exchange. We're basically a platform that's connected to 32 underlying liquidity providers, including CeFi exchanges, DeFi, decentralized exchanges. We're connected to layer 2s and we're connected to roll-ups. What all that means in plain English is we can cover a lot of coins and we can cover important new tokens before other platforms. So one of the things I'm trying to do is develop Uphold as a place to go if you wish to discover important new altcoins early. One of the things we did this year is set up a research department run by Dr. Martin Hiesbock, who's just done a phenomenal job for us, bringing us coins like XDC, Quant. Yesterday, in fact, we became the first regulated platform in the world to be integrated with the Constellation blockchain. So there's a lot of fundamental architecture underneath our offering that makes us special. And, I think one thing we're particularly proud of is being connected to that number of venues results in superior liquidity. So when there is an extreme market event, Uphold is the place where you can continue trading way longer than other single book exchanges.
Oh, it's a pretty remarkable revelation for me to understand Uphold's ability to be plugged into so many deep resources of liquidity, Simon. That is fantastic. Now, does Uphold have a broker-dealer's license, Simon?
We do. We spent, it must have been 2, maybe 3 years acquiring a broker-dealer, which we've now done successfully. We bought a firm called J&K Securities, which has a 25-track 25-year track record in equities research and OTC execution in equities. And funnily enough, this year we're launching an institutional service through that broker-dealer for digital assets. So that team is building out an offering for institutions, because that liquidity I mentioned and that exchange connectivity for an institution trying to execute a large order without moving the price either on the in or the out, we're very well placed to offer optimal execution for institutions. We bought the broker-dealer because it remains our conviction, and we saw it 3 or 4 years ago when we started. We see virtually all conventional assets, including securities, ending up on the blockchain. It's just a matter of time, and a broker dealer will be a very it's the right entity to be able to offer some of that stuff through.
Wow. Well, there's a lot that I want to dive into right there for a second. I mean, so eventually the goal is to be able to get Apple stock, Amazon, and all of that tokenized right on the platform as digital asset securities, correct?
That would be a goal, yeah. I mean, in the US, this stuff remains, because of the uncertainty of the regulatory environment, it remains challenging. But there are people doing very clever things in that space already, where fundamentally they're taking the existing rules around the offering of securities and then applying them to digital assets. And that makes it very hard for the regulator to argue, well, you're not doing it in the right way. If we're literally copying the playbook that you use for conventional securities and conventional regulated assets, what complaint can you have about treating digital assets in the same way? We've been talking to a couple of firms doing very interesting stuff in that area, and we have been offering equities outside the United States for a few years, actually. So digitized fractional US equities outside the US through a Seychelles vehicle for a number of years.
Now, when you guys made the decision to keep XRP on the platform and to offer that, first of all, kudos to you guys for the strength to do it. But was that decision based on having a broker-dealer's license and feeling like you were covered either way that this thing fell? Or how, can you talk about that?
Of course, yeah. No, it's got nothing to do with having the broker-dealer license.
Wonderful.
We decided to keep XRP on the platform because we took legal advice, and fundamentally, I mean, the position now is the SEC have made a complaint about Ripple, and their argument is that XRP should be treated as a security. But at this stage, it's simply a complaint. It hasn't been adjudicated upon. It's obviously a contested complaint. And our view and the advice from our lawyers was, until it is adjudicated upon, it is not a fact within the body of US law that XRP is a security. Of course, if the court adjudicates, and the fact pattern changes, then we'd have to review our decision. But right now, we're very comfortable with where we are. We also, there's just a fundamental principle that we don't want to cause undue detriment to customers holding assets when there's no need to do that. And I think the SEC themselves, it's one of their principles that they don't want to cause retail investors undue detriment. So our perspective on XRP is, right now, it is not a security. There is a complaint that will be adjudicated upon by the courts in the US in due time. And when that adjudication is made, we'd review our decision.
That is wonderful. And the UK has recently introduced, and said they're going to introduce even on a larger level, a stablecoin, a pound stablecoin. And now this is remarkable, just recently announcing 18,000 ATMs integrated, and the UK government saying that they are intending to move to using a digital pound stablecoin for the settlement of wholesale back end for finance. This is a big deal. Can you speak to that, Simon?
I can. I mean, well, first of all, I think it's fantastic news. My personal view is every currency should be available in stablecoin form. I think, something to be welcomed is what you really need is government-issued stable coins, I would argue, because then it injects trust and integrity into the whole system. And I think that's the way we're moving. The way I see it is there's a fascinating race going on between the European Union and the UK to actually become the most friendly jurisdiction for crypto and for blockchain technology more generally. And I think, in the background is the fact Europe and the UK, they lost the internet race, they lost the biotech race, they lost, various phases of innovation, and they see the long-term transformative potential of blockchain, and they're just determined not to lose this race. I mean, there's stuff that hasn't been reported on a lot that kind of illustrates that. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but in the Queen's speech, there was an announcement that the UK is going to be willing to accept NFTs in the context of trade finance obligations. That's a huge step forward. It means that NFTs would become a recognized binding financial contract under US law and under English law. And of course, English law is still the bedrock of a lot of legal systems around the world. So that's in itself a huge step forward for our industry.
I think it is too. I think you're really hitting on it, because knowing the U.S. actually follows the U.K. lead, certainly in crypto regulations, and then understanding, to the point you were making, that the U.K. itself is a giant global hub for finance and settlement of derivatives.
Right.
To announce that we're talking about a stable coin coming in the near term, backed by the government to use in a wholesale back-end way, is just absolutely, it's profound. It really is profound. I don't think people really are either aware of it or understand what the real impact will be. This is a G7 nation we're talking about, integrating this technology into wholesale back-end settlement. It's quite exciting to me. Okay, so I wanted to ask you here, because we know from Ripple that Ripple in 2019 stopped selling programmatic sales to the secondary market. And we've known that since 2019, Q4, not a problem. So you guys still provide liquidity. So you're not an on-demand liquidity partner. Like, how do you guys get your liquidity for XRP? It's a great.
Sure. Well, we don't have any direct relationship with Ripple. I noticed that was one of the questions you were proposing to ask. So it's basically through the network of exchanges to which we're linked, basically, and there's 32 centralized exchanges from which we source liquidity now, and there's also various decentralized exchanges. Of the CeFi venues, a lot of them are outside the United States. So there are venues in Asia and venues in Europe that we use. The specific ones for XRP, off the top of my head, I don't know. But again, the architecture is the same. We're plugged into this network of 32 venues, and we source our liquidity from a combination of those venues. And one thing that people perhaps don't know about Uphold that's worth flagging is one of the things that's really special about our model, and actually why I joined, we smart route orders to the most price-efficient venues. So Uphold is a really good venue for uncovering competitive pricing from you effectively we shop the market so you don't have to, I suppose, is one way of looking at it. And equally, there's not the dependence on one book when you want to sell and access liquidity. You're accessing a very, very deep pool of liquidity through those 28 or so exchanges.
Well, that is remarkable. And you wouldn't, and maybe you do not know, but whether any of those 28, 32 exchanges are ODL partners of Ripple that you source to.
I don't know, and I don't want to speak out of turn.
Sure, I wouldn't want you to do it, Simon. No doubt about it. Okay, and then I wanted to ask to you, does Uphold have any plans of becoming an on-demand liquidity partner? And I wouldn't imagine that you would, with the way you're set up as your model, right?
It's something that we're looking at. we've got a trading team that consists of a really remarkable group of people who combine, CFI expertise, DeFi expertise, and also a lot of these guys have got 12 to 25 years of experience in high frequency trading, FX trading, and equities trading. So our trading team is one of the parts of the business where we're doing a lot of stuff, and we're looking at a lot of different opportunities. But the big thing we're launching this year, by virtue of this exchange connectivity and trading capability, is an offering for institutional investors. So ultra high net worth individuals, family offices, money managers, and many of those relationships are coming to us through our broker dealer, because the broker dealer has a network of relationships that's been built up over the years in the equities, OTC, and research business.
It's amazing. I love hearing it. Okay, so understand, and I get a lot of this, and it is not because of Uphold. It's because of FTX and everything that we've watched happen in the market. Everybody's scared, right, Simon? And I know that you guys run into this all the time. Uphold is my favorite exchange, and it has been for years, even before you guys were a sponsor to the channel, and my audience knows that. But understanding you are a UK exchange and you house US customers, are you ever concerned that there will be an issue with US residents on the Uphold platform at all at this point?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, I think that's a misconception, actually. I mean, we're a global company,
right?
And we have a US domiciled entity. So if you're a US customer, you contract with our US entity, and our US entity is, fully licensed. We've got, I think it's 47 MTL licenses in the US, and it's, that you're very much contracting with a licensed US business. So please don't think this is a UK business. It's a US business. That's where we make, 80% of our money.
That is really good to know. That was an answer I kind of knew, but we had to ask it for everybody, right? So, all right. Now, Simon, this is a fun one here. At least we hope it is, right? And it's really just, what does the next bull market look like in your eyes? And we're not asking for a day, right? But what does it look like?
Well, I always stay away from these kind of questions because guess what? I don't know the future. But I think, what we're super interested in is the stablecoin thing you mentioned earlier is really important, because the thing that really obsesses us is stability and integrity in the ecosystem. What happened before Christmas, with FTX and Celsius and a whole bunch of players it was really interesting that it was nothing to do with the underlying technology. It wasn't about crypto. It was about, I need to use my words carefully here. It was about, let's say, poor management decisions in how those businesses were run, one would argue, and fundamentally, in some cases, doing stuff with customer money they shouldn't have been doing. That's got nothing to do with crypto. That's got everything to do with poor decision making. And I think it clearly led at the end of last year to a collapse in confidence, and collapsing confidence tends to see, assets being oversold. And if you believe in blockchain technology and its transformative ability, we're at a pretty interesting point in the market, right? And I think what's been very interesting for me over the past couple of weeks is to see, if you look, for example, at BTC, Bitcoin, there's been a huge concentration in stablecoin flows into exchanges during weekdays, not at weekends, during weekdays. That there is an argument that is the heat signal of institutional investment in the asset. And I fundamentally feel that's a very, very encouraging sign. And I know I've largely dodged your question, but I think that's that's as close as I want to get to it.
I totally understand. And speaking of which, one thing you can talk to and speak to close to this is that, can you talk about the custody for Uphold and the clients and customers on Uphold for just a quick second?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the things I was really happy about at the end of last year was Uphold's model of radical transparency was really vindicated. we're the only financial platform, forget crypto, we're the only financial platform in the world that we know of that publishes our customer assets and our customer liabilities in real time on a public website. Nobody else does that. And the reason we do that is we want customers to know that we're not doing anything funny with the money behind the scenes. Ours is a 100% reserved platform. We never loan out customer assets. And when you want to withdraw your assets, they're there. And the reason they're there is because they're nowhere else. And that's the purpose of our transparency page. And I was very pleased at the end of last year, during some pretty difficult months where some of the bigger players in the market saw very significant outflows of customer assets, we saw positive inflows in every single month, with the exception of November, where there was a tiny net outflow, but it was tiny. You know, this is on $1 billion book of business, and it was, I think in November, it was a net outflow of $4 million. All of the other months, it was positive. That shows confidence. Today, we have, it's around 95% of our assets are in cold storage today. You know, we regard that custody area as super important. And one of the things we're developing this year is a genuine first for the industry, which, and I can't say too much about it, but what I will say is it introduces an assisted form of self-custody that's integrated in the app. So, you know, if you want to opt to hold some of your assets in a very special form of self-custody, which takes away a lot of the disadvantages and is fully integrated into the Uphold app, you can opt to do that. That's coming later in the year.
Wow. I was just getting ready to ask you, you know, and first of all, I have to say, you know, and I think everybody knows it, you know, I was a customer first with Uphold, then it made sense to become a shareholder. I love having you guys as a sponsor, but, you know, being a customer is really a great experience on this platform. Can you final thought us just on the way out here? Is anything you want to say, leave customers with, or do features coming, anything like that you want to speak to before we wrap?
Yeah, I spent this morning talking about something we're very excited with. We're introducing a contingent trailing stop order. And what that means in plain English is pretty interesting. I mean, fundamentally, most people buy into crypto because they're looking for risk, in particular looking for risk upside, obviously. And a contingent trailing stop order basically means in plain English that you can buy an asset and you can follow the price up over time with an automated order, and you set the threshold. It could be 3%, it could be 7%, it could be 15%, depending on the volatility of the asset. That will mean that even though you're following the price up, if there's a sudden drawdown, if there's a sudden decrease in price, you're protected. It will trigger an automatic sell order. And that's really, really powerful applied to crypto, because it means in most situations, you should be able to dial out the majority of the risk, but have exposure to the upside in a coin. That's really interesting, right?
It's very interesting. Simon, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with all of us today and tell us what's going on with Uphold. It means the world to us. And if you wouldn't mind, don't go anywhere. I'm going to wrap this up, and then you and I'll talk just for a moment before we get out of here.
That would be great, Bradley. Thanks for having me on.
And thank you. And thank everybody for tuning in. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. We'll catch all of you on the next one.